Good morning. Welcome back to the Ham and Built channel. Today we're going to work on that lower section of the rocker box that I've been talking about. So over the week I got myself a sheet of 20 gauge so that we can bend it up. We're going to make kind of a very crude, I wouldn't call it a break, but more of just somewhere to hammer our edge so we can round it off a little bit better. We're going to start with using some CAD to get ourselves the shape, reusing the original one a little bit as a template. I got some new tools that not quite for this part of the job, but when we get to the quarter panel, they'll be necessary there. And let's get kind of started with that. So to start off, got myself a set of shrinker stretcher dies there. Was playing with the stretcher a little bit. As you can see, you kind of go along the edge, you get a curve out of it, kind of was bending it back at the same time. But we'll be using these when we get into that quarter panel, maybe some other stuff because it'll help make our radiuses. We got ourselves a sheet of, what is it? 2 feet by 4 feet, 20 gauge, cold rolled, oiled. This is really good. Cold rolled is great for body work. It forms better with hammer and dolly and underneath machinings. Oiled is good. It won't rust away in your shop. Hot rolled will work, but if you can get yourself some cold rolled 20 gauge, this will do basically any metal work you need to do on your car. 18 and 20 gauge is the go-to. Some stuff is 16. Like this, I believe, is either 18 or 20. I don't have a gauge, so I won't really be able to check, but they're probably very similar. I mean, this is a piece of 18 gauge. And if anything, I feel like there's a little lip, which makes this probably 20, so it's a good piece to replace it with. But with all that, we're going to kind of use this as a template, even though it is a little bent out of shape, a couple good spots. What I believe I'm going to have to do is make this in 2 pieces, as I don't have everything here to do it in one big go like this, like if I had a big break. So like I'm saying, I don't have my big break from work, so I could make all 4 or 5, whatever bends these are, line them out, bend them up, make them all nice and perfect. What we're going to do is, I've got this old piece of 3/4 by 3/4 1/8 inch angle. Just have it clamped to the edge of my table, which we are going to eventually replace this table with something with a metal top and an edge so that I can use it for hammering, kind of mounted to the wall and floor so that it's solid so we can hammer on. But this is going to be our edge for bending. I've also got a couple tools, my drawer over here, for metal forming. So with something like this, it's got a slit cut in it up to closer to 16 gauge, but you'll put this over the edge and then you bend it around slowly. Same with ones like this. That one's a thicker one. Different shapes, different sizes, depending on what you need. Tools that you make that instead of buying, because they don't always make good tools like these. So we'll be using that to make a few of our edges here to get the rough bend on our edge. Being 20 gauge, we'll be able to get some of these bends by hand, but the rest will have to be done kind of with that, some hammering, and then we'll get to installing it. But first we're going to start with some paper, get the basic shape off of the old one and get it in here. I'm going to get this cleaned up a little bit more and primer all this. You can see where it used to go. We're going to try to keep that same vibe to it where it was, to keep it fitting how it did. And we'll get to papering it now. Okay, so we got this area all cleaned up, primered up. I'm going to, once I make the box, we'll draw an edge and sand that back and put weld through primer where all the spot welds used to be. We will be welding the floor and fixing this gap before we weld this panel in, just so we can hammer and dolly whatever needs to be done. But so far we've got that. Now I'm going to set you guys up and we're going to draw out as much of the old panel onto a piece of paper as we can, and then go from there. Okay, so we have our paper. It's a little bit thicker Bristol board. It's a good start to use. It holds its shape when you bend it. We're gonna take our panel and draw it out. I don't know how much I'll talk through this, as it's a bit of a process, but I'm gonna use this main edge to start this panel. We're going to use this line as a weld seam. We're going to make this and this as separate pieces, as like I said a little bit earlier, I don't have everything to be able to bend this multiple ways, so we're gonna make a little overlap here, weld them together, and put it on the car. But with that, we're going to use this as our seam and see how it goes. I do know this and this edge are uncut. Those are cut, so we're gonna set it up like this and hopefully not lose anything. I know it doesn't look like much, but that is our most basic shape that should get all cut out. We're going to test fit it to the car and see where this starts us on our panel. It's good to start like this, kind of get your basic shape. Then you can take this, fit it, and if you see you need a little bit more here, a little bit more wherever, write it out. Try to always have another sheet. I got another big one sitting around ready for this, so don't be afraid to waste paper. It's a lot cheaper than the metal is. And there we go. the first section. And what's a good sign is it falls into place on our part. As you can see, obviously some giveaways of where it's going to be long, where it's going to be short. Probably won't put that back in, but I think I need those for my fender flare or wheel liner. So, but you can see overall fits where it should in here. So now, take our itty bitty chair, since it's all I have. So our panel, we're going to try to line it up with these spot welds. Worst case, it doesn't truly fit it, but with that, overall, this is tacky, that sits down on the shelf like it should. We have the first section to our replacement here. You can see it goes from there to there like it should. This will just get a bend from here down, which I'll probably mark and we'll trim a little bit different. But overall, we have a start. So take a better look. Fits in, nice and tight gap, up and around. Don't be worried about these edges. That can be sharp. Unlike the factory one has a nice rounded edge. If you want to go and make that edge rounded, it's all the power to you, but we're rebuilding. We're not making, we're not restoring, we're rebuilding something better, cleaner, and nicer. So let's get this here. So with it like so, we need to relief cut here just a little bit. We are straight to the edge here. Make a quick draw line where the bend needs to be, and then we'll fit it up one more time. Okay, added a bend even though we don't need that much, and relieve this back a little bit more. But overall, we have a good fitting template. So now we can put that one to the side essentially and do the underside piece, which is just more of the same exact thing. Trace it out, fit it up. As you can see, this isn't my first time. I've made a bunch, so this comes fairly easy to make a new panel. So this is done. Okay, so we have our cold rolled 20. Get this opened up. We're going to try to not open it more than we need to, but you can see the greasiness to it, which is what makes it last a lot longer. We got ourselves a little scribe. It's just an old screwdriver that got cut down. So, take our first piece. See if I can get you guys kind of on a overhead view. So we've got our upper piece. We're gonna put this edge to here, bring it down low. I want to add a little bit of metal on that edge. So with that like that, we'll use I need to buy some magnets, so we'll just use whatever has a magnet on the backside to hold to the metal. Helps to flatten it out. I would suggest also, with the fact of using greased or oiled metal, scribe it, because if you use your markers, you will destroy all of them. And if you can, on your long straights, just to make them better, use your ruler. The only downfall to oiled metal is there's a lot more prep work to clean it, to get it ready for paint and primer, because you really need to get an acetone or alcohol and clean it all out. But it'll last longer in your garage without getting surface rust. Like I said, cold roll is gonna be a lot easier for us to hammer out. And now while we're here, get everything really set up. Your bend line, go along, get that there. On that one. On that one. Then you have that one. Okay, so there's a lot of our template there. So now we have our basic line cut out. Let me really hard to see with all the light above it, but instead of using black lines that make it a little harder to see or harder to cut to, you can see. So that's our outside, our bend, a bend, outside lines, bends, our corner we have to notch out. We're going to use the 4-inch grinder with the big cutoff wheel, zip cut this corner out, and then start trimming it down and bending it by hand. So I'm going to get that cut out, and we'll be back and start bending. So we got it propped up. I've just got my tape measure under there, so off to the races. So there's our rough cut. We'll trim it down. You can do it by hand with the saw. I'll probably go along with it by hand, and then we'll start bending. Okay, so got it all cut out, all the edges cleaned up, ready to go. I got my bar strapped back to the table to make this bend a little bit easier. So we've got this, got our hammer. Want something with a flat edge, a lot better than a domed, because the dome will want to stretch out the edge. The flat will very much keep it flat as you hammer, as long as you don't hit off the edges or something. A flat one's nice. A dolly that has some good flat edges. This one's got a little bit of a radius, but we're going to use this corner more than anything. And then essentially this is a tipping die or manual tipper. You're gonna, to make something like this, as you can see, it's just square bar with a piece of 3/8 with a slit cut into it. Rudimentary, but very easy. This, you're gonna slide up to your bend line and then just slowly work along it, tipping the edge. Using our paper cutout, you know where everything has to bend. This has to go in, this has to go down. And I think our first route is going to be tipping this downward so that we can actually get our first bend working the way we need. So with our very, again, rudimentary sheet metal bender, we're going to go like that. Line up your bend line with the edge of your whatever you're using to bend. Honestly, my next purchase, since I got those, I should have waited with the shrinker stretcher and got myself even a 24-inch sheet metal brake, but this will have to do. So we'll start off with a little bit of doing it by hand, which you want to keep that radius that it had. This is a good way to do it. Those are honestly just the stuff that doesn't want to sink as easily. The best would be to clamp to the top. I wonder if I can do that. Take that. And with checking it to the car, we've got our first angle. Not a bad bend for really slumming it. Okay, so like I said, not a bad bend. Little bit of hammering. You can see where I hammered it all here. Not great, but if you had a sheet metal brake, you wouldn't get that, but we're doing this very garage style. So with that, we're gonna start tipping all these edges in slowly, and then we'll use this and our die again just to square up that edge and hammer it all straight. So as you can see, now we're squared up a little bit better. Now do the other ones, and I'll be back. And we have our first fully made panel in the garage. Not bad for, like I said, slumming it with a piece of bar and some basic stuff. We have a panel. It is fitted up nice to the chassis rail here, up and through here. So we'll draw out the line, grind it back this primer, put our weld through. Same with at the floor, nice and tight all the way along. Pretty tight here. We have a little bit of a gap at the top corner, which I could have radiused this a bit better or something to make that corner better, but I'll just fill it with just a tiny bit of weld and grind it nice and smooth. This whole edge will have seam sealer on it, so no water will get there. We go right from here all the way up. It's nice and flush. But for the first panel made in the garage with bare minimum tools, relatively, nothing you couldn't buy from the store, we've got a panel. I mean, I've also made panels like this by hand at the hot rod shop. So it comes kind of naturally. It's just not having a solid table. This isn't really solid enough. Same with the toolbox. Like the top is solid, but it's kind of hard to, there's nowhere to clamp and all that to do this, because it would be nice to just clamp this with a bar to be able to bend it. But overall, I'll say first panel came out really nice. So on to the next one, and we'll get to making that. I'm going to do it off camera. It's all the same crap, so I'll be back probably in it'll be tomorrow technically, but all the same video for you guys. But came out not bad. Pretty happy with that for how little I have here. So we have the second one papered. We cut it out. Fits in very nicely. Almost no gap along there. We'll just tap it up. A very fine gap along this radius to edge. Again, we'll just tap it down. Radiused around, I believe that's for the lollipop mount, so we're radiused around there. Edge is turned up on this side because we're going to spot weld to here where the factory used to come underneath. But overall, and we got the floor welded up. Just got to make a little cover for here. And it looks good like this. So I'll get to getting this ready for welding in. I'll sand off these edges here for weld through primer, get weld through on all the backside edges of this. Primer on the face. Same with this. Primer on the face of it, weld through on the edges. And we'll get this into place. And this will be 100% done. And we can start on the next phase of this thing. Okay, so we got the panels primered, drilled holes for our spot welds. Now we'll start with our lower panel because the front one's going to come to this. Little block to help bring that down. So now it's nice and tight up to here. Everywhere's tight. We will start with the spot welds on this side. Probably work down these ones underneath, and then we'll get the top in. Okay, we have our stiffening box, or whatever BMW calls it, in place, all welded in. Looking good for bending sheet metal by hand in the garage. Let's get underneath. You can see, nice and flush to here, flush to there. Has the step, which I'll get all these welds all cleaned up. All my batteries are freezing cold, so I can't really weld or grind easily right now. And I don't have a new flap disc for anything, so. But with that, I hope you've learned how to make something to fill in a corner from an old piece. Let's take, as I destroy something trying to get it out of here. What it did look like to what it looks like now. Got rid of all this rust. Added a bunch of primer to the inside. Now it should last forever. So with all that, I hope you guys have learned something here about using cardboard aided design, your little CAD, to make panels that you don't have in your car or that have completely rusted out, just like we did at the bottom of the rocker in the front. I made that piece of cardboard that kind of had the shape for an inner brace. So hopefully I taught you something. You can use this for basically anything, any kind of panel. I use the same technique for when I'm making firewalls on hot rods, when I made floors, all that stuff. It's a very simple, easy way to get yourself started on the panel that you're making, plus it gives you a size, gets you at least roughed in very well, because this is $1. Every dollar store, 2 for $1 or 3 for $1, depends on where you are. Super cheap. Hell, you can buy a pack of, I think, 20 from Walmart for less than $5 for the most part. Super easy pieces to do. It really helps whenever you've got problems. But with all that, we essentially have, if this lightens up at all, we essentially have from here all the way to the quarter panel dealt with. Next, I think I'm going to get to the quarter panel. I'm not sure. I kind of have a relatively big idea for what I want to do in the engine bay as well. I've got a lot of lines to make up and all that, because we're going full tuck. We're going to hide every single thing that we can. But with that, I hope you like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more content, and we'll see you next time.